Okay, so we're going to talk about solving absolute value expressions. So for this, we're going to start out with our first example here is absolute value of x equals 6. And we're saying, well, it looks like we already solved for it. X equals 6. And this is true, that's half the answer. However, if it had an absolute value of a negative 6, wouldn't that also equal 6? In other words, if I said absolute value of negative 6, wouldn't that also equal 6? Yeah, it would. So when you're solving for absolute value and it equals something, you're going to take two equations. You would simply say, in this case, x equals a positive value that it has, as well as x equals the negative value. Because no matter which of these values, 6 or negative 6, if you put in there, you will equal 6. Both those answers are correct. So let's look at this and see if we do anything different and we have something else inside the absolute value sign. So if we do, we have x minus 3, absolute value of x minus 3 equals 8. Well, in this case, all you're having to do is you're having to make this x minus 3 equals 8, but then you're also just having to rewrite it to where x minus 3 equals negative 8. You just need to write it to where it equals a positive and a negative value, because either one of these answers would work inside of this absolute value sign, and we'll show you. So let's look at this. So the first one we had, x minus 3 equals 8. So to get rid of this 3 over here, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'll be left with an x over here. My 3's will go away. And x is equal to 8 plus 3, which should give me 11. All right, so we got 11 for one of our answers, it looks like, and we'll check that. But first, let's also see what we get for this other x value. So now, instead of subtracting 3 from both sides, we need to add 3. We do the opposite side here. So add 3 to both sides. And now we're going to have x. These 3's go away. And now you've got negative 8 plus 3. So again, think of this as your $8 in the hole, and your friend gives you $3. Well, then how much money do you still lack? You still lack $5. You're still $5 short, right? Even though you got 3, you're still $5 short. So our answers should be negative 5 and 11. And we can check this and see if these work. So if you're going to put in here 11 minus, write the minus down a little bit better, 11 minus 3 equals 8. Does that work out? Well, 11 minus 3 is 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. So 8 equals 8. So that one works. And then we're going to take over here, we have negative 5 minus 3. We're saying that equals 8. Well, if you take negative 5 minus 3, you should have a negative 8 equal to 8. So therefore, you should get the absolute value of negative 8 is 8 equals 8. So that one works out too. So again, when you're trying to solve these, you just have to make the overall solution, you have to change it from a positive and a negative, or you have to get the positive and negative value for each one. Let's do another couple examples. All right, so let's look at this problem right here. We have absolute value of x plus 1 is equal to negative 3. Now, x plus 1 absolute value equal to negative 3. If I was to take the absolute value of anything, would I ever get a negative answer? Will this ever happen? No. So no matter what I do in here, I should get a positive value. So there is no solution. Because if I take the absolute value of any number in the world, any number, negative or positive, I should get a positive answer. So there's no way the absolute value of any number is going to give me a negative value. So no solution. So look at this next one. So we have 5 times the absolute value of x minus 2 is equal to 10. So before we do anything, like we did on the first couple, as far as changing the actual solution to positive and negative, let's get it down to where we just have the absolute value sign, or we just have this on the left-hand side. So what do we need to do to that 5? Well, first off, let's go ahead and divide. So we're multiplying that, so let's divide by 5 on both sides. 5 goes away over here, and we're left with the absolute value of x minus 2 is equal to 5, or 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now we can set up our equations to work out. So now we should look at x minus 2 equals positive 2. And we should look at x minus 2 is equal to negative 2. So this first one, if we add 2 to both sides, we should get x, those 2's go away, and we're left with x equals 4. And on this next one, if we add 2 to both sides, we have x, those 2's go away, and those 2's go away as well. We're left with 0. So our answer should be x equals 4 and x equals 0. So we're left with x equals 4 and x equals 0. Let's do one more example, just make sure all this is good to go for you guys. So let's look at this one. We have the absolute value of x minus 4 equals 8. Well, again, let's make sure that we just have this guy all by itself over here. We want this one all by itself over here. And we want this number over here. So to do that, so write this problem out again. So we got absolute value of x minus 4 equals 8. So to get rid of that 4, let's add 4 to both sides. And so we will be left with absolute value of x. Those 4's go away, and 8 plus 4 is 12. So now it looks almost like our very first problem where we had the absolute value of x equals 6, right? So this is saying we could have x equal 12 or x equal negative 12. And for that, that can be written simply by saying, as we say, x equals plus or minus 12. That's the answer. You can write it like that, or you can just leave it like this. Either way is acceptable. Just saying, you can write it a little bit easier by saying, if you know you've got this right here to go with, you can simply just write this by saying x is equal to plus or minus 12. Alright guys, so I hope that explains a little bit on solving absolute value expressions. Again, you want to isolate your absolute value signs on the left-hand side of the equal sign and have everything else on the right-hand side. So have all your actual values on the right-hand side to where you can actually take the positive answer and the negative answer. However, if it ever looks like this third one we did, if it ever looks like this guy, it's where you have this guy, a negative answer for absolute value, there is no solution. You will never get a negative value for taking the absolute value of any number. Any number in the world, if you take the absolute value of it, you will get a positive value. So there's no way this will work. Okay? Alright guys, well, I hope you learned a little bit of something. I'll see you next time.